I played baseball kind of from Little League onwards, and played through juniors and ended up playing travel ball, kind of through California, and ended up having just some like tough experiences with coaches and baseball. I kind of fell out of it with it, and took a break. And I kind of always knew that like for myself mentally, I needed some kind of physical outlet. And I played tennis a little bit and had a friend that was very good, that recommended this club that I ended up going to, and kind of fell in love with it immediately and progressed. And here we are. My mom and all of her siblings played kind of recreationally growing up and through high school. And it had always been kind of a thing within my mom's side of the family that when we'd get together, we'd play tennis, but it was just recreational and nobody was really serious with it. Um, and I kind of feel like having that little bit of a background was what made me think like, hey, I'll get into this. After I quit baseball, there was, if I'm remembering right, there was like a year where I would just run or did swimming for a little bit, and none of it really stuck. It was nothing that I was like, I really want to go do this. And then when I started playing tennis, it was, here and there, like a couple times a week. And as I started getting more into it, I'd do private lessons on the weekend, and I really, really started to enjoy it and had a good relationship with my coaches, and it stuck. And it eventually turned into playing, every day for hours. During the pandemic, I'm from the Bay Area, and everything completely shut down. So courts got locked, and there's this park like 2 miles from my house that I ended up going to just hit on a wall, and I'd be there for like an hour or 2 hours every day, and that was my routine. I'd get up, I'd do that, I'd do my schoolwork, and if I had an itch or like a technical thing I wanted to fix, I'd go back and work on it, and I'd do Zoom calls with my coach and send him videos and break down my strokes and kind of my technique on it and how to improve. And I think from like a technical standpoint, I would not go back and wish there wasn't COVID. From like a playing tournaments and results standpoint, I would, but I think it benefited me tennis wise in more ways than not. And then for school, I mean, it was completely remote, so I'd do like a check-in a week with an advisor at school, and then all my stuff was posted, and I'd go through it and get it done. And I made a deal with my mom during that first kind of shutdown period, like if I can keep my grades up, can we talk about me just staying online and really pursuing tennis? I ended up doing really well in school, and we started it out, and the deal was always, if your grades are not there, we need to pull you back out. And luckily I kept it up and ended up playing, 4 to 6 hours a day instead of going to school. Our schedule was it switched throughout the year. So in the summer, we'd go 3 hours in the morning, and then we'd have 2 hour lunch, and then 3 hours in the evening. And then during the school year, we'd do on Monday, Wednesday, we'd go a 7 a.m. lift for an hour, and then we'd play for 3 hours, and then we'd have a 3 hour break, and then come back in the evening for 2 or 3 hours. And then Friday, we'd usually go a little bit lighter, and then tournaments on the weekends, and that'd be anywhere from 20 minutes away to maybe you drive and stay in a hotel. And the goal was always to play like 2 to 3 a month. I mean, throughout high school, I was never the guy that ended up at like huge gatherings or any of that. I kind of had like my group that I stuck with, and it was, a few guys that I played tennis with and a few guys from the high school, that I just see on the weekends. But I feel like having the guys that I played with at Brookside where I trained made it so much better. And also having like coaches that were super professional, but I could also like go to dinner with and call them my friends. I think it was like, it's something that I will never look back and regret not going to 3 years of high school. I feel like when, you're putting all this energy into it, and there were definitely times where I was like, this really sucks. And I thought about being like, well, I could just go back to high school and can the tennis. I feel like pretty lucky that I had my parents and my coaches to kind of keep it in perspective that like it's not going to happen overnight, and like you are, you've only played a couple years and you're on this like progression, and maybe you'll be playing your best tennis when you're 21 or something. So I think it's really easy for me to be like, I really want the results now. But when it didn't happen, and still does, I mean, there's been results I've had that are really discouraging that I'm like, well, maybe like I shouldn't be playing tennis. Um, yeah, it's good to like step back and like have perspective, and I'm glad that like I have people that can help me with that. I love the tennis and the team environment here. I mean, when I came on my visit, like kind of the community that the guys had is something that totally stood out from anywhere else that I went, and something that I was like, I felt like part of the team before I was even here. I think the 3 hours is really plenty. I mean, I think the 6 was really good for me to like progress, and I'm potentially in the summer will go back to doing that. But I think now that like I know what kind of a player I am and I know what I need to fix and work on, I think if I'm like focused during those 3 hours, I'll make, the same amount of progress, and I'm getting the fitness and everything else I would have gotten out of it. And it also like just gives me time to, also balance the schoolwork. 6 hours would be like, I would not be doing too hot in school. It's definitely different being back in person. Like taking notes, not that I didn't take notes when I was online, but like keeping up with a lecture or having to work in a group project. I think kind of everything that like is pretty normal to most students here is something that like really isn't for me, that I haven't been in a classroom since my freshman year of high school. Um, it's definitely gone better than I like thought it might have. I thought there was a real chance that I was like, I'm totally out of it. Um, but no, I think I adjusted pretty well, and there's still things here and there that I'm like, I have to manage my workload, and like I can't take a day off to practice and then okay, I'll double my school. It's like I've got to be pretty consistent with it. So an adjustment, but I'm doing pretty good.